In this video, we'll be looking at the stunning Absolute Edition for Dark Knight's Metal.
Living easy, living free, season ticket on a one-way ride.
What is going on YouTube? Alex here with yet another DC major release that I'm extremely excited to share with you all. For those who follow Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's DC work, you all know that we have been waiting anxiously for what we will get next in the collected edition format after volume 2 of the Batman Omnibus. Well, the day is finally here where we get an Absolute Edition for Dark Knight's Metal. So without further delays, let's get right into it. Before diving into the contents, let's first talk about some required background reading. Dark Knight's Metal heavily utilizes a ton of DC continuity, and as a major fan of the DCU, I couldn't ask for a better event. Scott Snyder draws from specific stories which the reader would heavily benefit from, as the event does not always put on the brakes to explain its references. I would suggest avoiding some of the reading recommendations others may push for, like Batman Dark Knight Dark City or the 2002 run of Hawkman by Jeff Johns and James Robinson. In my opinion, the required background reading would be what is included in the Dark Days The Road to Metal Collected Edition. It includes the one-shots, the forge and the casting, as well as key issues from Final Crisis, as it features a critical moment. The key moment I am talking about is where Darkseid infuses Bruce with Omega energy to warp time around him. As a result, we have him being transported back to the Stone Age without any memory of who he really was. This is where Snyder builds from Morrison's Final Crisis and introduces Barbados, the main villain of the story, but more notably, Snyder also establishes a new origin for Batman and the DC multiverse. The new origin in Metal tells the multiverse actually has two sides: the regular multiverse, which we all know today, and now introducing the dark multiverse. Metal is all about Barbados trying to get to the regular multiverse to destroy it by pulling it down into the dark. How he tries to achieve this, I certainly don't want to spoil the entire story, but part of it is Barbados using the darkest of worlds, where they were built using Bruce's darkest fears, and sending those versions of Bruce as the Dark Knights for Barbados. This is where we get introduced to the Devastator, who is Batman from Earth -1. This is where Bruce exposes himself to the Doomsday virus in order to defeat Clark, who has gone mad. The Merciless, where Bruce was consumed by addiction of the power of Ares' helmet, losing all morality in the process. Red Death, where Bruce decides to steal the Flash's Speed Force after the villains of Gotham City murdered all the Robins. The Drowned, who is actually Bryce Wayne and has a hatred for all metahumans, but the only way she could defeat them is turning herself into one. The Murder Machine is basically an AI that was activated after Alfred was murdered by the Rogues. Essentially, we get the Dark Knight's version of Cyborg. The Dawnbreaker is probably the most interesting one for me, as this is where the Ring chooses Bruce right after the murder of his parents. And finally, the team leader and Barbados' lieutenant is the Batman Who Laughs. This is Bruce being infected with the ultimate Joker toxin that transformed him into the most sadistic Joker yet. Overall, the entire story is populated with extremely well-written action and suspense. We get peak Snyder and Capullo here, where they brought their A-game. There's no doubt about that. Now, this brings me to the contents for this Absolute Edition. Like the oversized hardcover that came before this, we get the essential issues for the event, but this Absolute Edition pulls in two critical one-shots that gives the reader more context in what is happening outside the core issues. The ordering is as follows. The event has 6 issues where the Batman Lost one-shot sits in between issues 3 and 4, while the Wild Hunt one-shot sits in between issues 5 and 6. What is not included would be the Resistance tie-ins, and despite it being a highly enjoyable tie-in, it's not critical to the story. I totally agree with DC's decision not to include it here and save it for the omnibus. What is debatable though would not be bringing in the one-shot that tells the origin for the Dark Knights. In my honest opinion, this was a missed opportunity where it would have fit perfectly right after issue 2 when we get to see them for the very first time. I understand that this is typically reserved for an omnibus, but when I want to read a major event like Metal again and again in the future, my go-to tends to be an Absolute Edition over an omnibus if available. In any case, it is no way a deal breaker, and we get all the critical issues in this edition, which can't be said for the previous oversized hardcover. Now, moving on to the build of the book. Right off the bat, we can see that this isn't just a standard Absolute Edition that DC typically puts out. Megan Bellison and the Collected Editions team has produced something special to complement the scale of this epic event by Snyder and Capullo. Starting off with the slipcase, we get a truly unique use of embossing, debossing, and a use of foil to replicate a metal diamond tread floor plate. As a fan of all creative foil covers of the 90s, I'm blown away of what Megan and the team did here. The dimensions are like any other DC Absolute, 8.5 inches wide and 12.8 inches tall. But one thing I noticed here that the cell sheet that usually comes with each Absolute Edition is much smaller than what we get here with Dark Knight's Metal. I assume it is to showcase the art within the slipcase. Sliding out the book itself, another comeback we get is the return of the dust jacket. This is a welcome addition as long as the printer does its QA and does not have the glue from the slipcase seep onto the dust jacket, but it looks like DC moved on from the printing company they were using back in the day. As you can already tell, I am still bitter about it, as I gravitate to the Absolutes when rereading Jeff Johns' Green Lantern. But in this case, no issues at all, and the foil shines crisp and clear over the exclusive art by Capullo and Glapian for this Absolute Edition. One thing to note is that the colorist for this exclusive art is Dave McCaig and not FCO. We also get their stunning art on both the front and back with a black spine. The inside flaps to the dust jacket are the symbols for all the Dark Knights, as well as Snyder and Capullo's basic bio. Taking off the dust jacket, we are presented with a raw version of Capullo's pencils over more silver foil. The spine of course is now inverted with black text and logos over the silver. As we open the book, we get a dark grey metal tread pattern that has a clean, consistent design from the slipcase, followed with the title pages and credits. I tend to rush over the creator credits as I always find my audience closely following the creators of specific events, but here's a more extended look at the entire creative team. More importantly, we wouldn't be receiving this Absolute Edition if it wasn't for the designer publishing team who put this together. Megan, Steve, Christy and Robin absolutely killed it with this stunning Absolute. Such an amazing job from the creative publishing crew. As we traverse through the book, we get a full page title for each issue and the main cover. And for the extras, we get a very extensive variant cover gallery that goes beyond what we got from the oversized hardcover. It also features the exclusive local comic book covers, which looks immaculate, especially the ones from Gabriel Dell'Otto that was exclusive from Bulletproof Comics. That said, it seems to be missing at least the David Finch exclusive for issue 3. Not sure if this was an oversight or if there are other exclusives that were dropped from the gallery. Let me know in the comments below. In any case, seeing most of these pieces from amazing artists like Cliff Chang, Dustin Nagayan, Tim Bradstreet and the late Michael Turner is something that you need to see in this truly oversized format. We also get character designs from Capullo for Barbados and the Dark Knights, which is always a joy to see the evolution of a creation of a new character. And capping off the extras, we get the entire issue of Dark Knight's Metal 1 in pencils by Capullo. This now brings me to my final thoughts. Dark Knight's Metal no doubt was a very ambitious Batman-centric event that resulted in huge ramifications and the reimagining of the DC multiverse. Snyder and Capullo absolutely pulled it off, and in my opinion was a more enjoyable ride than certain past Crisis events. I know it's somewhat evolved to something completely different after Snyder's Justice League run and Death Metal, but if you're a fan of Snyder and Capullo's Batman run in any way, shape or form, this Absolute Edition is a mandatory buy for your library. Because in what other DC book will you ever see Batman punching a Joker Dragon and then riding it into battle? That is some never-ending story vibes. As for the cons, despite not getting the Resistance tie-ins and the one-shots, I can understand DC's decision to leave it out and not interrupt the flow of the main event when it comes to the Absolute Editions. You are really buying an Absolute Edition for the large immersive format where the art and core story are front and center. Suppose you wish to indulge with the entire event and dive deeper. In that case, DC will give us the option in hopefully January with no issues dropped. Overall, I can't emphasize enough on how well this book and slipcase were put together, and without a doubt they raised the bar for future Absolute Editions. Let me know in the comments below whether you'll be picking this up, or will you wait for the omnibus in January, assuming of course this doesn't get delayed due to the climate we are in. I will leave links down below on where you can pick this up. I'm pretty sure this will go out of print in no time, so I will try to get your order in as soon as possible. Again, I want to thank you all for your kind support earlier this year when I dropped the Tom King Batman video. I was blown away with basically 100% positive feedback you gave me, and I feel I have the most positive audience I could ever ask for. You are all just the best. As always, you can slide into my DMs on Instagram, but I'm also trying to give Twitter some more love as I have been using it more day to day. Until the next video, grow that home library.